The 2013 NEC Women's Basketball Tournament is set to commence on Sunday afternoon with 4 quarterfinal matchups. It's win or go home, and all 8 teams are looking to battle for this, the NEC Championship Trophy and that automatic ticket into the big dance. I'm Craig D'Amico from NEC Front Row and the NEC Women's Basketball Road Trip blog. This is Ralph Ventry from the NEC On the Run podcast. And Ralph, it's the greatest time of year. It's tournament time in NEC Women's Basketball.
Absolutely, Craig. 8 teams, only one will get the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. And we start, of course, on March 10th, Sunday. All 4 games, 2 starting at 2 o'clock, the other 2 tipping off at 3. I'm ready to go. I know you are too.
Well, let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time here. We have our first quarterfinal featuring Quinnipiac, the regular season champion for the second time in their school history, and an unbelievable 18-0. The 6th undefeated regular season, 4th 18-0 team in NEC women's basketball history. They set a wins record with 27 and counting, with still more games to play. And then on the other side, you have Bryant, a team making their very first NEC tournament, the first year that they're eligible. They got here with a thrilling conclusion in their season finale against Robert Morris. So when Bryant and Quinnipiac tip it off in Hamden, Connecticut on Saturday, what do you expect to see in that one?
Well, you never know, really, with March and the NEC tournament. That's the beauty of it. We have had an 8-1 upset 6 years ago, actually. 2007, St. Francis Brooklyn went into LIU and beat their cross-borough rival there for the first ever time, and the only time it's happened in NEC history, but it has happened before. Of course, Quinnipiac has had a remarkable season, arguably the best body of work in the regular season that we've ever seen in the history of this league.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal. They're up to 8th in the mid-major poll, 27-2 overall. They've only lost twice, and they weren't necessarily bad losses, so to speak. I mean, they lost to a Georgia Tech team who was an ACC power who actually defeated Sacred Heart in the NCAA tournament last year. And then, of course, Quinnipiac's only other loss was to Hartford, which has really been a regional power over the last 10 years under former UConn star Jen Rosati. So, now, that's who they lost to, but who did they beat? I mean, they have a great win over James Madison, a formidable foe. St. John's, a Big East member. They have 2 wins over Sacred Heart, the second-place team in the Northeast Conference, who's up there in the RPI as well. So, really, as a body of work, the Bobcats have done a phenomenal job this regular season. So, on the other side, Bryant, if they want to become the second team to pull off that 8-1 upset, they really have their work cut out for them. But it can be done, Craig. It can be done. And I think the key to that is really getting Nana and Coma Mensah involved in the front court for the Bulldogs. Of course, a second-team all-conference selection. So she would be a key. She would have to neutralize Brittany McQuain on the defensive end, and then she would have to be an offensive threat and really be have a presence on the boards for the Bulldogs if they want to pull this thing off.
The thing I love about Quinnipiac is that they're a team that has all the pieces to the puzzle. And ever since they lost in last year's semifinals at home to the Monmouth Hawks, they're a team that's been driven and focused, and they've had March 17th circled on their calendar, the date of the NEC championship game. But this is the first step. They have to get past this one in order to continue that dream, that goal. And, I think it's going to be an interesting test against Bryant in the first round.
Without a doubt, Quinnipiac did sweep the regular season series 2-0. But in the last game we saw toward the tail end of the regular season back on February 25th, the Bulldogs cut it down to 4 points with about 2:20 to go. So they were within 4, within striking distance in the waning minutes of the game. But, of course, Quinnipiac, as good teams and championship teams have a tendency to do, when their back was up against the wall, they just put the pedal to the metal and put the game away and kept on their run, 18-0 in Northeast Conference play. Really amazing.
But it doesn't mean a thing if you don't get that ring.
That is true, Craig. That is true. But I do want to point out there is one piece of history on Quinnipiac's side. We've had 3 18-0 teams, the last one being Sacred Heart in 2009. All 3 of those teams have gone on to win the Northeast Conference tournament. So, but of course, still 3 games to go for the Q. we'll see how they make out if they can add themselves to that elite class in Northeast Conference history.
Moving on now to our next quarterfinal, we have Sacred Heart, the reigning champions until someone knocks them out. They're hosting St. Francis Brooklyn, and you've talked about it a bunch of times on the podcast this year. A great turnaround season under John Thurston. St. Francis Brooklyn went into Fairfield and beat Sacred Heart back in the first conference game. They just met recently, and Sacred Heart won. So this is kind of the rubber match here.
Without a doubt, Craig. And I look at this as a matchup of two turnaround teams, really, and I'll explain why. John Thurston came into Brooklyn a couple of years ago as an associate head coach under Brenda Milano. He helped started changing the culture of the program then. He started to put in some conditioning drills and really started to change the mentality. This year, when he has taken over at the helm, now the head coach, and he has gotten to put his full plan in place, you've really seen a difference. The Terriers won a combined 4 games in Northeast Conference play over the last 2 seasons. 4 wins in 2 seasons combined. This year, they won 8 games in Northeast Conference play. They doubled their total from the past 2 years. So it really is an awesome story of what's happening there in Brooklyn Heights, the transformation under John Thurston. He has a young rookie, exciting rookie in Leah Fetchko. He has a young sophomore class as well that is contributing in Sarah Benedetti. Jamie Vinay, who was an all-rookie selection last year, she's in that sophomore class. You have Ellie Simpson, who's had some big games for them. She's another youngster. So the talent is young. They're growing, and they've done a great job so far, but it's going to be a tough test in Fairfield come Sunday. Because Sacred Heart, now we mentioned these two teams split in the regular season. This will be the rubber match, as you mentioned. But St. Francis, the matchup that they won was early on in Northeast Conference play in the first 4 games. And Sacred Heart started out Northeast Conference play 1-3. That's a spot they had never been in before. You're talking about a Sacred Heart program, a coach in Ed Swanson, who has never finished lower than 3rd in the regular season since joining the league in 1999.
Which is remarkable. That's incredible.
Unbelievable, and they continue that again this year, finishing in 2nd place. But they started 1-3 in Northeast Conference play, and that was a spot they had never been in. They had never had such a dismal start. And they were kind of at a crossroads. They went out to St. Francis U, and St. Francis was playing really well at the time. It was a television game. We had it on Northeast Conference TV. 1-3, Sacred Heart won convincingly, ran away with it with defense that I had not seen in quite some time, an awesome defensive effort, and from then on, they went on a roll.
And it was Erica Norman that sparked that in that game.
Exactly, the point guard Erica Norman, who's the NEC leader in assists and steals, by the way. You talk about a spark plug. She only scores about 6 or 7 a game, but she's dishing out 7 assists a game. She's making 4 steals a game, and she's got it. She's got that swagger, so to speak, Erica Norman. I can't say enough good things about the way she plays. I personally, really a terrific young point guard. Ed Swanson's lucky to have her. But no, getting back to the theme of the two turnaround teams. Well, St. Francis is in the midst of turning around its program. Sacred Heart, 1-3, they had the turnaround, and they're right back where we thought they would be when it was all said and done. Of course, they were picked to finish 2nd by the Northeast Conference coaches. Quinnipiac picked to finish 1st, and they did. So a good job by the coaches when it came to the top half of the standings, nonetheless.
Those coaches, they must know a thing or two. Now, Sacred Heart, if they win, Ed Swanson can tie the NEC playoff record for most coaching wins, so we'll look to that. And also, St. Francis, they're looking to be just the 2nd 7 seed to win a playoff game under the current format, 7-2. Now, let's move on to the next game. You're going to be in Fairfield. I'm going to be in West Long Branch for the 3-6 matchup between Monmouth and Mount St. Mary's. It's a rematch of the season finale. Monmouth won that game with a great second half comeback to earn home court advantage as one of the top 4 seeds. And Monmouth, of course, a team that has a bunch of playoff experience. They've been to the finals the last 2 years against the Mount team that they were the St. Francis last year. They were the comeback story last year. Now this year, they're looking to take that next step under Brian Witten.
Absolutely. Mount St. Mary's, they were picked down in the poll in the preseason, but they could have really finished as high as 3rd or 4th going into the last weekend of Northeast Conference play. So they wind up in 6th place. It's the highest finish, I believe, under Brian Witten in his tenure. They made the tournament a few other times under Coach Witten, but as a 7 or 8 seed. this year as the 6th seed, and it's a rematch of the regular season finale, Monmouth and Mount St. Mary's. This is a good one if you like guards, okay? Because on the Mount St. Mary's side, one of the reasons why they're doing so well this year, Selena Mann and Sid Henderson.
I love watching Selena Mann play, and Sydney Henderson is really coming of her own this year.
Without a doubt, absolutely. And Sid Henderson, someone who does a lot for them in the offensive end. She can score as a slasher. She's a shooter. She can do a lot of things. She can create off the dribble. Selena Mann, on the other hand, is really, in Coach Witten's words, a key to what they like to do on defense and a key to the way they like to play. They like to get a lot of ball pressure, and Selena's the person who's putting the pressure on the ball. Of course, last year she was second or third, I believe third in the country, right behind Felicia Barron of Quinnipiac. She was third in the country in steals. She doesn't quite have those steal numbers this year, but she's still
a factor.
Absolutely, she's still a factor, and she's really a key to what Coach Witten and the Mountaineers want to do.
And when you need her to score points, she had 20 points against the Hawks last week.
Yeah,
so
she can shoot it a little
too.
bit. Absolutely, absolutely. She's probably only around 7 a game for the year, but she's got it in her where she's got that. Not
She's
a deceptive
got that touch.
Yeah, exactly. She can pop off for that 20 at any time. So she has that ability without question. And guards, well, let's look over at Alicia Womack from Monmouth. I mean, you have a guard there who just garnered her 4th consecutive All-NEC selection. So a 4-time All-Conference player for Jenny Palmatier down in West Long Branch. And Alicia has led Monmouth in scoring the past 4 years. The last couple of years, she struggled with injuries. She's missed a few games this year. She hasn't really been 100%. She came off the bench as she attempted to get acclimated again, and then she finally worked her way back into a starting role. And really, now that she's healthy, you can tell because the results have been phenomenal. And you want to talk about somebody with the ability to put up 20 any night. Well, that's Alicia Womack as well.
Absolutely.
And not to mention, Monmouth has Gabby Singer, another tough guard, a 4-year player for them. Has been a starter for all 4 years. Tough defensively. Another that's their defensive star, their go-to on defense. I like to refer to her as. And then in the front court, you have Paul Vast and you have Abby Martin, a senior from New Jersey, from Maplewood, New Jersey. A little undersized, but tough as nails.
When she gets into beast mode, watch out. She's
absolutely
dangerous.
Beast mode, like Marshawn Lynch on the Seahawks. She's tough. You don't want to get in her way, that's for sure. And she's made the all-tournament team before. Yes. So you mentioned that experience that Monmouth has. They've been in the championship each of the last 2 years. Abby Martin already has all-tournament honors. She knows what it is to play in that type of game. The Mount doesn't have as much experience, so we'll see how that plays a factor, if at all, on Sunday. Monmouth and Mount in the MAC.
Should be great. Monmouth 4-0 in playoff games in the MAC, so it'll be interesting to see if that plays into a factor. Monmouth with 44 combined games of playoff experience on their roster as well. Now let's look into the 4-5 matchup. You have St. Francis, a team that, let me just read off some of their ridiculous playoff numbers. 39 playoff wins. They've won 35 of their last 37.
39 and 7, only 7 losses. 39 wins, only 7 losses.
Right.
I mean,
and they've won 35 of their last 37. It's pretty ridiculous. 14 title game appearances, 11 championships, and they've won 23 straight at home at the Gall Arena. That's pretty insane, and they're taking on Central Connecticut. Central Connecticut has to go into the lion's den, so to speak, and look to pull off the upset.
Absolutely, and Central Connecticut is capable of it,
absolutely.
Believe me.
Absolutely.
And to be honest with you, St. Francis really peaked or seemed to peak earlier in the year. And they kind of have been struggling a bit of late. But with that said, they're playing at home. It's going to be a great atmosphere. They get tremendous support from the community. The energy will be in that building. And St. Francis U has a dynamic player in Allie Williams. And they also have a veteran post presence in Shanae Fleming. Yes. And they have shooters in Alexa Hayward. So they haven't been playing, my point being, they haven't been playing their best basketball of late. They really haven't. They lost their last 2 games of the season to Central Connecticut, of course, and to Bryant. So Central has been playing better and is going into this game with a hotter hand. But St. Francis U has the pieces of a team that can make a run for this thing. And you, what did you say? How many straight at home in the playoffs?
23. They haven't lost at home in the playoffs since 1992.
I mean, so
I was in second grade.
So there's something to that intangible factor. There's something to having to go into that arena up on the mountain there in Loretto and win in the playoffs. And St. Francis knows how to protect their house, so to speak. So definitely a huge challenge for Central Connecticut. But we know how they're going to do it if they do, and that's with the Babe sisters.
Yep.
Jacqueline Babe, first team All-League. Jessica Babe, a great defender. She's a 9.7 rebound player per game, and she's a small guard.
And they could both set up teammates. They both have high assist numbers.
Absolutely, they do it all. They're very cerebral. The cerebral players, and they know where to be, and they know where their teammates are going to be. They know where they're supposed to be. They're making the right moves. They're making the right decisions. Those are the type of players that the Babe sisters are. But Jacqueline Babe, you want to talk about, we've mentioned people who can pop off at any time. We've used that term a few times here this afternoon. But Jacqueline Babe, she's got 30-point games under her credit. She dropped 34 on UMass. She had another 30-point game.
And against Quinnipiac.
Against Quinnipiac.
And then she had 29 against the Red Flash just last weekend.
Exactly. So she is a dynamic player. She could score the ball. She makes her team a lot better. In the post, Kirsten Dahman, a big presence for the Blue Devils in the post. So they're a dangerous team as well. It really is a great matchup on paper. And then you have, of course, the mystique of playing in the Stokes Center. It's going to be a good one. I'll be watching on front row for that one. While I'm at Sacred Heart, I'll try to sneak on my iPad there. So
it should be a great weekend. We're looking forward to it. If we go on any longer, we're going to miss the start of these games. So we got to get started to watching. All the quarterfinals are going to be on NEC Front Row. The Monmouth game will be on GoMUHawks.com. Then the semifinals will be on Wednesday. The final will be the following Sunday on St. Patrick's Day on ESPNU. And we look forward to a great tournament as always. As they say, anything can happen in the NEC tournament. For Ralph Ventry, I'm Craig D'Amico. This is NEC Front Row.